Hi, it's Anita from Cheshire Falconry, and Harry and Sam again are with us.
Hello.
Just to continue what we were talking about before, because we're talking about autism, and the guys from Rail Nuts and Making Tracks want to make the events that they run more accessible for people with a wide range of conditions, including autism. And one of the guys very kindly shared with me his experience of supporting somebody with autism to drive one of the trains, which they do through an iPad. And he said prior to him interacting with this young man, he'd actually been very nervous of people with autism. And he said after he'd spent some time with him, he was no longer afraid of him, which, was very honest of him.
Yes, it was.
So I just wondered what your thoughts were about how the guys from Railnuts could make things better for anyone with autism who was attending. Things like how do they talk to them, particularly if they're non-verbal?
Yeah. Well, for non-verbal, it would be quite good if there's sign language, but if there's no sign language, that's fine. You can communicate with pictures. Like you can sign these laminated cards or something like that, which should have some symbols on for like driving the trains and so that, and hopefully it'd be good to have, if it's possible, a small quiet room or a quiet space for people to go in case they're getting a bit overwhelmed or they need some time to calm down, and a symbol for that would be quite good on one of the cards. But when speaking to autistic people who do choose to speak or can speak, I think one of the key things to do when speaking with them is to be patient.
Absolutely.
Yeah, very patient, and also
patience is of the essence.
Yeah, and aware of how literal you can be, because I think that sometimes it can be quite confusing, because many autistic people and neurodiverse people can take things quite literally. So I think it will be quite good to be aware of how literally you're speaking, and to be very patient as well, to be very calm and patient with them, because it would help them a lot, and it also will keep them more calm if they can have time to process what's being said to them.
Yeah, I think one of the things that you've both said to me in the past has been about that time to process things.
Yes. Yeah, and the time to process can take, sometimes depending on the person, it can take a long time or a short time, but it also depends on the mood that the person's in, which is again falling into the social, like the quiet area, which would be hopefully a space where, because the more overwhelmed you are, in my experience, the more difficult it is to process, and it sometimes comes to the point myself when I cannot process at all until I have calmed down. Whatever is said to me, I just cannot take in, and so the ability to process what's being said to them is something that is really important. I think it's nearly impossible to overstate how important giving people time to process is for autistic people.
Yeah, I think you mentioned before about that feeling overwhelmed. Now you go to a school where people have different conditions and abilities and so on, and you sometimes see people reacting to situations because they are overwhelmed. And I think for a lot of people who are not autistic or don't have these conditions, they find that odd or a bit scary. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it can appear to be, I imagine, quite a confusing and a bit unnerving thing when someone's processing or stimming or doing whatever they'll need to do, because it'll be, someone who doesn't know it, it'll be quite peculiar. But I think it'd be really important to just try to, as difficult it would be to try and accept that that's just the thing which they need to do, and let them do it. And it will be different for every person, because every person's way of regulating themselves will be different. But I think that is like the quiet area, a really important aspect for us people and neurodiverse people to be able to bring themselves down, to calm down, or to ground themselves after being overwhelmed.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just about the environment as well. I mean, I've been to a train event, and as long as the environment's calm and relaxing and friendly, yeah, it plays a massive role in it.
Yeah.
And it'll encourage neurodiverse people out of their shells, and they can enjoy it.
Yeah.
And they don't have to be afraid of that stigma.
Yeah.
Being judged.
Yeah, you mentioned stimming before, and stimming takes lots of different forms that people might not be aware of. And I know you like to swish, but some people flap their hands, don't they, and things like that. And why are they doing that? What does that do for them?
Well, it helps them to process what's happening, or something that's happened to them. It also helps to regulate themselves, helps to ground them. For myself, I know that, say, I'll be doing my work or in my studies, and I'll reach a certain point when I cannot take anything, or I'm a bit overwhelmed by what I'm trying to do, and then I shall go for a break outside, and I shall stim, I'll swish, and that helps me to process what I've done, and to calm down, and to regulate myself so that I can go back in and carry on. And so stimming is, again, very, very important for neurodiverse people, because it helps them to regulate themselves, and it also helps to prevent quite unpleasant moods or actions from coming about, because I know that when I can't swish, I begin to feel quite unwell, and I might sometimes I might start twitching or develop a tic because I need to swish, and so it's something that needs to happen, something that gives really good positive what's the word, Sam? I'm trying to think. Positive attributes. Yeah, it's not attributes, the word I'm looking for. It's like
so it's really important to help you to regulate, because I kind of, in my naive way of looking at it, it's like some people in an office might go and have a cigarette.
Yeah. Exactly. Everyone needs to regulate.
Yeah. So stimming's a slightly healthier way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, and it's that I think another aspect that a lot of people don't understand is that feeling overwhelmed and the sensory overload.
Yeah.
And I've met people that I've worked with where sounds can impact on them. Smells. I know for you, Harry, if you've said to me in the past, if I'm wearing too much perfume or something like that, it's not a nice experience for you. So tell us a little bit about that, that sensory bit.
Yeah, well, a lot of, I have it as well, is a lot of neurodiverse people can be noise sensitive, for me, it's a loud noise can, for a few seconds, completely paralyse me and shock me, and I might sometimes need to stim after that, because it can be such a powerful and unpleasant scenario that comes about, and it puts me in a quite unpleasant feeling. But a lot of neurodiverse people seem to be very aware of what's going on around them, like in a sense that smells and noises seem to have more of an effect on them than other people who aren't neurodiverse. And so it would be really good to take into account, if possible, that like loud noises or smells that non-neurodiverse people can hear and might be a bit loud for them, that could be like tenfold to a person with neurodiversity, because it would be so much more powerful and impactful on them.
Yeah, I think I was in a church once with a school, and there was a little boy there, an autistic boy, and he if there was, they rang bells, these little tinkly bells, which some people might think sounds quite nice, but for him it actually was painful.
Yeah.
You know, so he would sort of call out.
Yeah.
And then somebody who was with him was very embarrassed about that, whereas to me they should have been very accepting of it. And it's just he was having a really negative experience from that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I think people get a little bit confused about the what they see as a tantrum.
Yes, I think that is a very big misconception, and I think that even in some cases where it may look like a tantrum, it's usually not. It's usually it's not like the neurodiverse person is cross because they've not got the way, or cross in general. It could be a lot of things like fear or being overwhelmed, and it's such a horrible feeling is to be overwhelmed, and sometimes when I get overwhelmed, I get so overwhelmed I can't actually stim, and so then I have to.
It's all encompassing.
It's an all encompassing, really unpleasant feeling, and it may look like having a tantrum, but they're not, and it's like a result of a series or a singular unpleasant scenario for that person that has then caused them to almost, in a sense, like lose control, and they can't really understand what they're doing, or they have to do it because it's like painful to them, and the process and the whole thing that's going on in their mind is so difficult to try and comprehend for them, because it's really powerful emotion.
Yeah, so they're doing the reason that they're behaving like that is they're dealing with a really, really complex, difficult situation in the best way that they can to improve things for them, but for others just don't understand why they're doing it. No.
Yeah, and it probably can seem frightening quite often, because if you don't understand what they're doing, I imagine it will. But it's something that they have to do, and it'll make them feel a lot better, and they'll be able to be a lot calmer, and like you said, it's this thing they have to do, the best thing that they can do to calm themselves down.
Yeah. I think one of the things that initially, when I first started working with autistic children and young people, well, neurodiverse really, because I work with a lot of people with ADHD and other conditions as well, was the fact that somebody who seems to behave really, really well in school, they're doing really, really well in school, and then they go home and have this complete meltdown. But it seems that within the school environment, they are controlling it to such a degree that it's actually, that in itself is overwhelming.
There's a lot of cases like that. I mean, there was this person who I heard about, this autistic boy who would try and pent up his emotions and his feelings so much so at school that when he came home he would just scream for hours on end, because it had just been so difficult to try and contain yourself. And it's really difficult because it's something that is unnatural for neurodiverse people to try and contain themselves and contain these emotions, not be able to process what's going on. It's basically, in a sense, like forbidding their own nature, which is really difficult. And I think it's really important that people look out for even small signs of neurodivergence in people, because it can be, particularly with high functioning people, it can be very difficult to see and to diagnose. But yet, even though someone might not seem to be as neurodiverse, it's still just as important to make sure that they have the support, and that even though you can't see them, in some cases people might scream and shout, but just because these people aren't doing that, some of them, they'll be doing it on the inside, which is just as destructive, and it can lead to really, really bad mental health and really bad things for the person. So it's really
physical
important.
Health conditions as well. And I think it must be absolutely exhausting as well. Trying to keep that lid on things all day. And then and deal with situations where someone wants you to behave in a way that conforms with everybody else, but it's not your way.
And the sad thing is, like, going back to the stigma, is that a lot of neurodiverse people feel like they have to do that, and in some cases they might be told that they have to do that because of society's desire to fit people into boxes. They cannot seem to be able to be themselves or to do what they need to do for fear of ridicule from professionals and their peers, and it's really sad, and it's a really a big issue.
Yeah, I think from one of the messages that I'm getting from what you're talking about is the importance of acceptance of you for who you are,
Yeah.
Rather than trying to fit you into your box.
Yes.
Yeah, so just accepting and actually to give you, if you know, to keep a close eye and make sure that you're
Yes.
not sort
Just
of
masking.
you're not masking all the time, and that if you are, that you're given that time out,
Yes.
you know, to regulate yourself and to start to feel a bit better.
Yes.